This is Y Nada Más, a Real Madrid podcast.
Hello, everybody, and what is going on? This is Eric Rivera from the Nada Más podcast, and I am once again coming to you from on the road and basically doing these podcasts, as I said, trying to keep up, because if not, I would be days before I would be able to sit down in my studio. But fret not, my good friends, because we will be having a podcast. I will be doing a video podcast, obviously, this weekend after El Clásico. Whether I will be angry or elated is all going to be up to how our boys perform when they take on Barcelona this Saturday. So with that said, guys, as always, my name is Eric Rivera. I am the host of the Y Nada Más podcast, and I am, you can find us on all of your favorite apps for, what do you call that, for podcasting and all that kind of stuff. We are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Google Podcasts, we are on Spotify, so you can find us there. If you're listening right now, then you should also know that there is, just for your information, there is a video version of the podcast. The video version of the podcast is available on YouTube. Lately, with the video version of the podcast, it hasn't been me in studio. It's just been a basically a music visualizer kind of effect there, and that has been something I've been doing for the last two. This will be the third, but I'll be back in the studio for after the El Clásico game. Now I'm gonna have to probably watch, and this is gonna be super tough, so I don't know if you guys have had to deal with this before, but what's gonna happen with me for the podcast, for the El Clásico, is that my son actually has a game at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, which is when El Clásico is supposed to play. So I have to choose whether I tell my father, basically my son's granddad, to, take him to the soccer match, or so that I can go and just watch the game without any interruptions, or I go to the game and I try to stay off social media and try to stay off every single form of digital media so that I don't know the results, and then I watch the game. Now, it will be absolutely nerve-wracking to do that and then get home, watch the game, and if we lose, I'm going to be really, really pissed. If we win, I'm probably going to be really happy. But regardless, I guess, it doesn't really matter what happens, right? I think at the end of the day, I would be happy or mad about the result no matter when I watch it, So what would you guys do in that situation? By the time you listen to this, maybe you'll probably tell me, maybe it's, already passed, or, well, no, because I'm going to try to get this up as soon as possible. But anyway, yeah, that's what's going on with that. So the last time I spoke with you guys, it was right before the international break came to an end. So we've actually seen two games. The 2-2 draw with Sevilla, and of course, the win over Braga yesterday in the Champions League. It would be yesterday in the Champions League. Barcelona has just played essentially and beat Shakhtar Donetsk. Real Madrid continues at least to have not lost any games, obviously, since that loss that we suffered against Atletico Madrid. I think we're in a pretty good position, although I was not happy with the draw against Sevilla. I have to tell you guys, I thought it was a good game, to be honest with you. And I always say that as much as I dislike Sevilla, like I said, I have a soft spot for Sergio Ramos. But at the same time, I feel like Sevilla is a better team on paper than they are performing. Like, I think, they have a quality squad. The reason that they're not getting results is, is it down to tactics? Was it, Mendilibar? Although Mendilibar took them to the Europa League, but they're like Real Madrid. When they're in the Europa League, they're like Real Madrid. They turn into something else entirely. But when they're in La Liga as of late, they just haven't been able to get, I guess, a resounding win, except for that 5-1 win that they have over Almeria, which, to be frank, who doesn't have a big win over Almeria? Almeria actually kind of had a surprising performance against Girona, and then all of a sudden, capitulated and then got, I think, 5 scored on them, so it ended up 5-2. They were up 2-0, and then they just fell apart and ended up 5-2. So, with that said, here we are, right before a Clásico. We just got done with, like I said, Barcelona wins over Shakhtar, Real Madrid wins over Braga. Jude Bellingham continues to do what Jude Bellingham does, scoring a beautiful goal against Braga, being an important player as well. Rodrigo, thankfully, guys, God, I was so happy for him to get a goal against Braga. It's funny because I still watch the goal and I can't really see from the angle whether he touched it. Was he the final one who got the touch on the ball, or was it coming from somebody else? But regardless, he gets a goal. He needed a goal. I've seen a lot of opinions on what the lineup should be for Real Madrid against Barcelona. And, I don't know. I don't know what to think, honestly. I mean, I see a lot of you guys putting Camavinga at left back, which I wouldn't say I disagree with, considering how solid he is at left back, and how erratic Fran Garcia can be at left back. It depends also on who, Barcelona is going to play, because I feel like if they play with Rafinha on the right-hand side, Camavinga has had experience shutting him down in the past. Fran Garcia can be a liability coming back. I think he's, I think the jury's still out for me on Fran Garcia. I still think he's got a quality that we want. He's a tank when it comes to, being able to play, without getting tired, essentially. But he just goes so far forward and is so kind of erratic in his decision making that I think he is a liability defensively. I haven't been too angry with what Mendy has shown, but Mendy is still, I guess, I don't know if he's got the confidence from Ancelotti. I don't think Ancelotti wants to play him. So I don't know. I think it might be David Alaba. It might be Eduardo Camavinga playing the left back. And I think the other discussion is whether we're going to have David Alaba or Nacho in the lineup now that Nacho is able to play this game for a bullshit reason. Because I'm sorry, as much as a Madridista as I am, the fact that they rescinded his red card to only serve a 2-match suspension is just another example of the corruption that there is in La Liga for either side. I mean, I just can't get on top. I just can't support that shit where it's like you decide when you want to dish out, when you want to dish out punishments. What Nacho did in that game was absolutely a red card. It's a straight red. Straight red is usually a 3-match ban. You're trying to talk about, whether it was intent or injury or whatever. That whole thing is ridiculous to me, and it's one of the things that for me is a black eye on La Liga and continues to be one. It's the reason that we have all this talk about corruption in La Liga and referees and all this bullshit. It's just ridiculous. And I hate to talk about refs, I do feel that the Burgos Bengoechea in the Sevilla game was absolutely atrocious. But at the end of the day, that's, what it is about these refereeing decisions? It's like we have to deal it's not only happening to Real Madrid. We can say what we want about Barcelona right now and the issues with the Negreira case and all that. But I think it happens to other teams in the league that I've seen some really crappy decisions from our refs, from La Liga refs. I'm not going to say our refs because I don't want to be involved or be lumped in with those scumbags, because I honestly think that they're just all pretty incompetent when it comes to it. And then VAR is just as bad. There was for me at least, a clear penalty from Jesus Navas on Vinicius Jr. That wasn't called. So again, but what can you do? You got to deal with what so to cry over spilt milk, as they say, and really get, I don't know, up in arms about how unfair things are and all this thing is, you got to bring it up, but us as fans, you're not going to move anything in any direction. The ones that really got to complain about it are Real Madrid, and they're doing it, and they're going through the team, and they're going through the channels of using the Real Madrid TV and trying to bring it up in press conferences and all that thing. And I think that's really the only thing you can do. Our only job and responsibility as fans is really to look at the game, and the team's got to play. It's got to play well. You got to at least not leave things up for doubt sometimes. That's unfortunately the way the cookie crumbles, but that's also something that is happening to a lot of other teams in La Liga. So I just don't agree with victimism, this whole victim mentality that everyone's out to get you, it's only a Madrid thing, or it's only or that bad reffing is only a thing that happens in La Liga. It's happening across the board as we get into this world of VAR, as we get into this world of, really trying to figure out how to just do reffing better, So with that said, the game against Sevilla, like I said, it was a game that was much better on paper. They're a much better team on paper than people give them credit for. Going to the Sanchez Pizjuan is always going to be rough, and it is what it is. We got a 2-2 draw. I thought it was a good game. I thought the goals scored were great. Like I said, De Burgos Bengoechea robbed us of a clear goal from Jude Bellingham, which should have been a goal, because he lets the play continue and then stops it when he sees that Real Madrid has an advantage. I have no idea what happened there. Just atrocious refereeing there. The penalty call, bullshit, whatever. But, the rest of the game too, what can you do, man? Once again, defensive lapses. Every time I feel like it's the same thing that happened against Braga. A defensive lapse after Jude Bellingham scores a great goal to get up 2-0 versus Braga. We just completely fall asleep in our defense. And it's kind of always these diagonal balls or crosses into the box or set pieces. It's always that causes an issue with Real Madrid. It is always that problem. We saw the same thing happen with the goal that was scored by En-Nesyri in the Sevilla game. Just like how they say, desatención, just not paying attention, and unfortunately David Alaba trying to cover En-Nesyri, the ball hits him hits him in the ribs or whatever, and it ends up bouncing off and going into the goal, and it's an own goal. It's an unfortunate one. It's not something you can really do, but then Carvajal comes back and scores an amazing header to put us back into the game, and from then on it could have definitely gone our way, but it is what it is. It is what it is. We drop points there. The dropping the points, while obviously annoying, while obviously a problem, doesn't take us away in the running of being in the lead. We're still in the lead. Obviously, Girona won its game. Barcelona wins its game by the skin of their teeth. And then, I mean, you could say whatever you want about Barcelona PR and all this kind of stuff. They win the game against Athletic Club by the skin of their teeth with a goal from a canterano, from a La Masia product, Marc Gui, or Gui. I don't know how you pronounce his name. And now everyone's, basically kind of playing him up as the second coming of Messi, and the fact that, La Masia produces all these guys, and and then I'm hearing all this stuff about Carlo Ancelotti being, a terrorist because he doesn't play our players from La Fábrica. It's like, dude, man, you people need to get a hold of yourself too, man. The only reason they're playing canteranos from La Masia is because of the fact that, number one, Barcelona doesn't have any money to buy stars, and two, they have a shitload of injuries. So they're playing these guys because they have to. They don't have any other opportunities. Pedri isn't a La Masia product. People kind of throw him into the mix. Gavi is, sure. Fermin Lopez, I do think he's been doing a phenomenal job coming in and playing. Marc Gui, or whatever his name is, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, so excuse me, Catalans. But it's something that they always do to play up, La Masia and the academy and whatnot. And then we shut down. We try to say, Ancelotti doesn't play our academy products, but who are you going to put in, man? Who are you honestly going to put in? Yes, give minutes to guys like Nico Paz. Give minutes to guys like Alvaro Rodriguez, which we did last season. There are those options. Why didn't we play Sergio Arribas more? But there are things there that I feel like people think that Carlo Ancelotti makes all these decisions. I'm sure the board has something to say about it. I'm sure Florentino, still wants to have the best of the best in in the positions. In the 4-4-2 diamond that we're playing, or in whatever 4-3. 4-3-1-2 system that we're playing. You're not going to find. You're not going to be able to play that system. I mean, you're not going to be able to bring too many guys in there. People are talking about putting in Vinicius Tobias, like I said, Nico Paz. I think you're going to see these guys play in Copa del Rey. I think you guys are going to see those opportunities play out there, depending on how we arrive to Copa del Rey. If anybody gets injured, you're going to see those opportunities. I mean, it's just crazy how people, and it's like, who would you rather want in a game? If you want to play and win La Liga, if you want to win the Champions League, do you really think bringing in those guys and playing them on the first team day in and day out is really going to solve the issues that we have? I don't think that that's necessarily true. I do feel like we have to use Brahim Diaz more. I agree with that. I do feel like we have to. For me, I would rather use Joselu currently than Rodrigo, but I do want Rodrigo to get back on track in his goal scoring. But I don't know, man. I see so much shit talking from so many Madridistas against Ancelotti, and it's like, you guys forget what this guy has brought to the club. You guys forget what his resume is. And, it's like, dude, we're in first place right now. Like, depending on what happens in El Clásico, I'm pretty sure if he loses El Clásico, it's going to be knives out, depending obviously on how we lose El Clásico. If we lose it, but if we win El Clásico, he's going to be seen as a genius. And like I said, if we go back to playing the way, if we play this following formation, so if we play with, with Nacho and Rudiger in the defense as our center backs, as our right back, we would play with Carvajal. As our left back, I'll give you guys Camavinga because that's kind of who gives me pause. I don't think Fran Garcia is the one I would put there yet, confidence-wise and form-wise. Obviously, Tchouaméni as our pivot, Valverde and Kroos as our central midfielders, Bellingham obviously the point of that diamond, and then Vinicius up top, and I would actually bring in Joselu up top to offer some sort of aerial threat, because if we brought in Rodrigo, we're not going to have that. as much. It's just not as much as we're going to have. And then cycle the team depending on how it's performing. But I really feel like that's the lineup we have to go with in a Clásico. I think the one thing that I would say that I would agree with a lot of you die-hard Madridistas that hate on anything Ancelotti is that if Ancelotti were to lose this game, I think what would piss me off to no end, because of the fact that I would not want to have to deal with all the BS, PR and shit talking that would come out of Barcelona fans and La Masia, diehards, would be if Fermín López or Mark Guehi or Gavi or one of these guys score on us. That would blow me away, and that would make me really angry. So, for me, I would love to keep a clean sheet against Barcelona. I would love to, walk away with a win. I don't think we need to walk away with an absolutely, devastating 5-0, 7-0, something that we would obviously want to see, but that I don't realistically see happening since we're not exactly banging in massive amounts of goals right now. I say we'd win by la mínima. So essentially, I'm looking at a 2-0, 2-1 score line. That's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to say Bellingham is going to score because I'm pretty sure this kid is going to be fired up to play El Clásico and score a goal in El Clásico and do his celebration in front of El Estadio Olympique de Montjuïc. I could see that. I could see maybe Vini scoring. I could see Joselu scoring. So I think there's opportunities there for us to win this game if we play with that formation. And like I said, I'm still confident in this team. I'm seeing that the team is way more gelled. It's way more, they're starting to kind of get into the game. We were getting clean sheets. Defensively, it's still scary to see what happens when they cross the ball into the box. If Barcelona is not going to have Lewandowski, if Barcelona is not going to have, those guys, obviously on the right-hand side, we always got to worry about Lamine Yamal. Although I think, if they're probably, are they going to play with him or are they going to play with Rafinha? I think with somebody like Camavinga, will, in his experience, I think he might do a good job of shutting either of those guys down. I think our midfield is more solid. The one that we would have to watch about, obviously, is Gundogan, who would be delivering the, pretty much kind of being their creative outlet there. Gavi making runs into the box. Obviously, he's a firecracker. He's going to push and push and push to try to get into that box. Fermín López. Not too worried about Ferran Torres, to be honest with you. For me, Barcelona, the team, the people that I have to say as a Madridista, that I'll actually say, without any sort of, without, wearing any colors and essentially, shitting on all things Barcelona. I think Araujo is a spectacular center back. Ter Stegen is looking good in his form currently. I believe that Lamine Yamal is a talent. I believe that Fermín López looks good. I also believe that Gavi is, of course, as much as I hate the guy, I really do not like this kid. I don't see too much of the hype in him other than the fact that he's a grinder. That's pretty much it to me. Obviously, Pedri is a talent. And that's kind of where I draw the line. And Gundogan has the experience, but that's kind of where I draw the line of who they have. I think we have a more solid team currently. And then we just have to see what Ancelotti does. And hopefully he doesn't do some weird sort of concoction, decides to overnight cook up some weird brew and do something like he did against Atletico Madrid, But against Atletico Madrid, he was missing, Vinicius. So you had to make do with and try to fix things that way. I don't know if he was trying to, I think he thought a certain thing about Atletico Madrid maybe, allowing us the possession essentially. So he thought that, somebody like putting Luka Modric and Kroos together, which we all know at this point is something that we shouldn't be doing anymore, was a solution of retaining the ball and keeping the ball. I think we just have a lot of better players in better form to play this game. So, Valverde is quietly having a great season. Tchouaméni is quietly having a great season. Bellingham is loudly having a great season. I think where we're lacking, I guess, is, Vinicius getting back to Vinicius a little bit, but he's starting to show his talent there and what he can do. And I think he can give the back line at Barcelona fits. Obviously, he's going to have a rematch with Araujo, and I think Araujo's fantastic. So we'll see who wins on that day. But I think, like I said, Joselu can bring in an aerial threat. He's got a nose for goal. He's been scoring goals. So why not give him the role? And I think like for like, I think Real Madrid is currently in a better form than Barcelona. We have a better team than Barcelona right now. I'd be very angry for us to lose this game. So that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to say about that. I really, I do have a confidence, but it's a quiet confidence. It's a quiet confidence because we always seem to shit the bed against Barcelona. I guess you got to say it's more under Ancelotti than we ever did against Zidane, than we ever did with Zidane. But I would just love for us to, get and continue to move away, at least from Barcelona, move away from the likes of Girona, move away from the likes of Atletico Madrid, and this would be a huge statement win. It's still like we would only be 4 points ahead of Barcelona. We still have to see what Girona does. Atletico Madrid, as I said, has a game in hand. We have to see how they're going to perform. So there's, a lot of things. It's still very early in the season, for this to be happening. It's match day, 11? When it comes to the Champions League, we're in a solid position. We have to see what happens when Copa del Rey starts. We have to see what happens too when, we have another guy there sitting in the weeds currently, hoping to get a start at some point once his injury subsides or he improves, which is Arda Güler. I'd love to see this kid get on the pitch and see what he's got. So many people have talked him up. I want to see what he can bring to the table. We gotta, and I was watching, a lot of pundits talking about the youth that we're seeing in a lot of teams across Europe. Barcelona, obviously, with these players like Fermin and Mardiu and obviously the likes of Gavi, and then you have, Real Madrid with Bellingham, with Camavinga, with Tchouaméni, with Vinicius and Rodrigo, so there is a group of youngsters there as well. It's really interesting to see how that's happening, and we're starting to see this next generation and this next generation of possibly the next generation of the rivalry between Barcelona and Real Madrid, with youngsters coming up and seeing how that's going to play out. And then, if you look at the Champions League, this guy, Zaid Emery, from Warren Zaire Emery, I think is his name, from Paris Saint-Germain. You obviously have the likes of guys like Mbappe, Haaland. There's a bunch of youth players that are already kind of established world-class names in football, and they're still young. They're still under 25. I think about Mbappe isn't going to be 25 until December. So there's still all of these quality talents coming up, and it's awesome to see. So with that said, moving back to La Liga, it's up for grabs, guys. It's up for grabs. I still think, but my obviously my desire is to beat Barcelona, but I'm still weary of it. They're not performing. Barcelona isn't performing great, but they're eking out wins. They have young guys that have a desire to win. That's the one thing that you have to watch out for. That experience should always fear the strength of youth. And these youth players are coming in and with to put it crudely, zero fucks given. They have no worries. They're going in. They're being dynamic. They're going in there with a sort of that a mentality where we can be a little bit. They don't have any qualms about being a little bit reckless about going in and trying to fight for things and grind things out, because they're trying to prove a point. They're trying to prove a point. They're trying to make a name for themselves currently, while the other important players at Barcelona are out. And I think that's the biggest thing we have to fear when playing against Barcelona. And it's currently, they are on I wouldn't say yes, their form hasn't been dominating. Their form hasn't been where you're like, oh my God, they're tearing it up. But their form has been where it gives them enough of an impetus. It gives them enough of a feeling of inspiration, of good morale with these young guys doing well on the team, to come in guns blazing against Real Madrid. So Real Madrid can't sit back. Ancelotti can't be calm. We need to approach this game, which is something that I do dislike about the way we've approached these games in the past, is that Real Madrid comes into these games, I feel like a lot of times feeling like it's just another league game, while us fans feel like it's a do or die. And then I feel like Barcelona comes into these games feeling like it's do or die. Like for them, this is the ultimate matchup. And while you can laugh at that, and people laugh at that, like, oh, because their cup, their World Cup, their Champions League, since they haven't won any in quite some time, is, their sole purpose of existence is the joke, is that their sole purpose of existence is to beat Real Madrid, right? But why should we just lay down and let that happen? Why is the mentality that, okay, they want it more, they're fired up, they're going to come out guns blazing, and we're just going to play a regular game of football? No, man, it's a derby of sorts. It's a Clásico. It is a rivalry that is far beyond being a friendly rivalry. It is a die-hard rivalry that comes with hostility and comes with, not to put it like in a violent sentiment, but it is a hostile rivalry. It's a rivalry where the two teams, the two fan bases, let's say, because I wouldn't put it on the teams, the two fan bases absolutely do not like each other, and so we want to see our guys fired up and angry and wanting to fight and wanting to play the game and win it just as much as the fans of Barcelona want to beat Real Madrid, and just as much as some of these players like Gavi and I'm sure Fermin and some of these guys that grew up in La Masia, so have that anti-Madridismo somewhat embedded in them, to get a beating. And I want them to get a beating. And I'm tired of us just sitting back and just being like, oh, it's just another game of football. Whatever happens. I don't want that. At least from a fan perspective, I hate seeing that. I want us to go in and tear them a new one, And we did it last season in Copa del Rey, and I want that to happen again, I want that to happen again. And I hope Ancelotti comes with that fire and doesn't kind of just say, oh guys, it's just another game, take it as another game. No, it is just another game in La Liga, but step it up, because this is our rival, But I don't know, that's a lot to ask of Ancelotti, who's such a calm-headed dude. But I still love him, and I don't give a shit what people, these people that call him oh, Taliban football, he doesn't play some of our youth players, he doesn't do that. His job is to win. His job is to win. His job isn't to kowtow to these guys who want to see La Fabrica prospects in a big game. His job is to win the league. His job is to win the league, to win the Champions League, get as far as he possibly can in the Champions League, to win titles. And I'm sure Florentino and I'm sure the other fans that are part of Real Madrid or Madridismo couldn't give two shits if the academy players play, if it means that we're going to win trophies, you know? If we can win trophies and give chances to academy players when it's deemed necessary, then sure. And I think the strategy of Real Madrid has always been, and I feel like a lot of people are new in understanding the strategy of Real Madrid. It's very different than La Masia, where they want to, you know, produce homegrown talent and pump them into the first team. And really, they've only had one golden generation that happened, which was, you know, Iniesta and Xavi and Busquets and Puyol and Messi and all of these guys coming out of La Masia in one, you know, giant generation. You know, you're not getting that as much now. They are buying players. You know, they bought Frankie de Jong, they bought Rafinha, they brought in Luke de Jong, for God's sakes, at one point. You know, they brought in Lewandowski, they've brought in Gundogan, you know, they brought in all these guys so they are making purchases. It's not like they're not making purchases. Real Madrid is a team that's always trying to buy and find the best that's out there. And what they do is all these talents that they have in La Masia, all these talents that they have in La Masia, what they're trying to do with them is get them to, you know, play really well, get other European teams or other teams in Spain to give them a run so that they can get more minutes. And, you know, they always do this buyback clause. So they're a team that essentially, they sell their talents, these young talents that they have in La Fábrica, they send them out to get more experience in other teams. And then if they're doing really well, they bring them back. And that's what we've seen for a long time. I don't see how it's like, you know, I don't understand how some people that are Madridistas or claim to be Madridistas aren't aware of that fact yet. We'll bring in and you know, bring guys into the first team if they're absolutely like world beaters, you know, because that's what it is at the end of the day, you know. Talk to me in a few months and see if Fermin Lopez, when all the guys get back, when Frankie de Jong gets back, when Pedri gets back, you know, when Lewandowski gets back, when all these players come back to Barcelona and are out of injury, talk to me and see if the likes of Fermin Lopez are still getting as much of a run out, if Marc Guiu is still getting a run out. Talk to me next season and see if they're still getting it. If they're still getting it then we can say, okay, you know, they are trying to promote more guys from within side. But right now, I think it's more of a thing of necessity. Anyway, those are my 2 cents, guys. Thank you again for listening to the Y Nada Más podcast on the road, as I call it. For now, there will be, as I said, I will be in studio and do an actual regular podcast after El Clásico. How angry will I be? Hopefully not angry at all. And we'll see who comes out the victor in El Clásico this weekend, Saturday. And hopefully I can watch the game live. I don't know, man. Part of me wants to watch it live, but then I wouldn't be watching my son play. So, or, you know, even if I go and I'm like watching it on my phone, I wouldn't be able to see my son play. So that'd be like probably not good parenting. So I might just have to catch it later and do my best to not look at my phone. That's what I'm thinking. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening to Y Nada Más podcast. I am your host, Eric Rivera, and once again, you can find us on all of the your favorite podcasting apps. It's Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and as well, we are, of course, on YouTube. Please do me a favor, if you can. Please do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, we're trying to grow our YouTube channel, and it's something very important, obviously, to us to grow that YouTube channel. And then in addition to that, if you are listening to us on any of your favorite podcasting apps, especially, let's say, on Apple Podcasts, please help out, drop a rating, drop a comment, drop a rating. It helps us rise up in the ranks there on Apple Podcasts, with so many podcasts out there. You know, getting you guys to drop a rating and comment on it will help us grow there. And as well, it'll help us grow on our YouTube channel as well to subscribe and continue that way. I appreciate I appreciate you guys for supporting, for listening. As I said, I'm trying to keep this going, so I'm doing these podcasts sometimes on the road as I do my job and do other things as I move around town. And then when I do get a chance to jump back in studio, I'll do it in studio. So with that said, guys, thank you very much for listening, and a la Madrid.
This has been Y Nada Más, al Real Madrid Podcast.